My next guest is an incredible intimacy coach, speaker, and author of the novels Discovering Lita and Something New. Today, Angie shares tips to spice up your love life during the pandemic. Angie D. Lee, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Of course, of course. What a pleasure. I always just said it's always a pleasure to have a friend, a real life friend,
Yes.
doing amazing things on the show. And so, the pandemic has kept us separated. And so just, the technology has brought us together again today.
Yes.
So it's so good to see you, truly. All right, my dear, we will go ahead on and dive on in on today's topic of discussion. Spicing up your love life during the pandemic. We're still in this thing 2 years later. So, Angie has come on today to give us some amazing tips. So, Angie, we'll get started talking to you. Tell me about your life as a wife and mother and how important family is to you.
Oh, just as a wife and a mother, let's just say that it's a consistent journey. It's a lot of evolving, a lot of pivots, but I would not change it for the world. I really, really enjoy being a mom. And I think right now, with my kids being the ages that they are, ages 10 and 15, I have a son and a daughter. And it's just really cool to just see them grow, and just morph into who they are and becoming the people that they're just destined to be. And we're here as their parents, my husband and I, to guide them. But at the same time, we're allowing them the space to just explore who they are. And so that's really, really fun to see. And I'm just excited, about what they're going to do, in the world. So I think at this stage in motherhood, I'm really enjoying this age. I'm not in the newborn stage and stuff anymore. I like that they are a lot more independent. They're free thinkers, and they can kind of decide too, what they want to do. And based off the way we've reared them, they're learning how to make decisions on their own. And I remember a coworker of mine years ago told me that healthy birds fly away. And so I think about that with my kids. As much as I love them, and I want them all the time, with me, but at some point they have to fly away. And that's the stage that we're in right now, with them and their development. But it's really beautiful to watch. So that's what I would say about motherhood. And as far as my marriage, I've been married now 16 years. I'm like, I know. I got married when I was 12, people. So I'm just but but yes, it's been 16 years, and it's truly been a journey that I can honestly say at this point in our marriage, every single thing that we've experienced, we've done together, and it's been worth every single minute of it. And I say that wholeheartedly. So yeah, it's something that I just would not take back. I'm really enjoying the experience of being a wife.
Wife and mother extraordinaire. You make it look so easy. You always have.
Yeah. On the outside, it's still a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes.
Well, as an intimacy coach, I read that you help modern couples rediscover their passion, their pleasure, and their connection in their relationships. Why do you have such an affinity for helping couples reconnect?
Well, that question is kind of twofold, and I'll keep it as short as possible. Obviously, my background has always been in the mental health field ever since like 2003. And so I've worked with primarily children. And I think too, just children and adolescents, teens. And I've seen over the years how intimacy plays a significant role in the development of just a human being. And I've seen it from the beginning stages, even as early as newborns. Because I've worked in like domestic violence, child welfare, school social work, I've really had an opportunity to see how children respond to not receiving intimacy. And a lot of times people think the word intimacy, they automatically go to sex, but that's not specifically what I'm referring to. I'm referring to like closeness, referring to people feeling accepted and loved for who they are. And because I've had so much experience in that, I've also kind of drawn closer to that in adulthood as well, and seeing how that still affects people when they have not yet dealt with some of the intimacy issues that they had as children. And with me being married, and as long as I've been married, I can honestly say I understand all of the stages. I understand all of the highs and the lows and the peaks and the valleys. But at the same time, I know that when people have the tools and they have the skills and they're taught kind of like through coaching what they can do to reignite that intimacy and work through that as a couple, it's a beautiful thing. You know, a lot of times there are marriages and relationships that feel that they can never be resurrected. But a lot of times it's just because they didn't have the tools and the skills. And so I'm very passionate about that. And I'm passionate about it because, like I said, my husband and I, we 16 years. So we truly understand the moments that were not always easy, really tough moments, those really hard conversations and realizations. And so that's something that I definitely want to pour back into other couples, that if you want that, if you desire the pleasure, the passion, the connection, it is possible if you want it and if you're willing to work for it. So that's why I'm definitely passionate about that.
So that's amazing. I mean, as an intimacy coach, who are your ideal clients and how do you serve them? You know, how do you help clients, you know, reconnect? How do you do it?
So basically, my ideal clients are typically committed couples, people in marriages or long-term relationships, heterosexual couples, and that's not any slight on anyone else. That's just the population of people that I typically work with because of my expertise. But a lot of the tools and the skills and the different things that I do with couples can totally be applied really to any relationship, any romantic relationship. But that is my ideal demographic. Typically, it's around the age ranges of like, you know, I would say roughly like around 34 to about 55 is usually like that age range. And the reason why is because in modern society, a lot of people are waiting till later to get married. And so with that, we've kind of grown very comfortable in our ways. So when you try to merge two people together, it can be a little bit of a shock because it's like, I don't get this. Why are we not, you know, getting along? Why are we not passionate about, you know, what we used to be passionate about? Why don't we talk like we used to? Why don't we go out and do creative things anymore? And a lot of that has to do with it's just coming together. Two people truly trying to come together and make it work. And then you try to add the intimacy factor that doesn't always come as naturally, you know. And so, and I think that it's really important with couples around that age range because I have found younger couples when you tend to get married younger, you know, it's like a blank canvas. You know, it's like you go into it with your eyes, you know, just like rose-colored glasses, and you're willing to do anything. Whereas as you get a little older, you know, you have your own opinions, your thought processes about things, and sometimes it is really hard to be understanding of the other person and to really state what your desires are. So that's definitely my age range that I work with. And then also too, for families who have children that are, you know, moving out, going to college, and they're becoming empty nesters, it's kind of is forcing couples to be like, okay, the kids are out the house. So now we got to look at each other every day. So what we gonna do? So yeah, just working with couples in that phase of their lives and their relationships is definitely a demographic I work with. And so some of the key things that I like to work with people on, couples on, is first and foremost, understanding intimacy within yourself. And so a lot of times people just automatically want relationships to just go because we've been together for this amount of time and they should know how I feel. Come on, you've been with me for like 10 years. How do you not know that I don't like the smell, you know, of that food you're cooking in the kitchen? You know, and it's like, but at the same time, you know, does your partner really know what you desire? Do you know what you desire? You know, and so the biggest thing, first and foremost, is having them kind of take inventory of what they really enjoy. What are the things that make you tick? What are the things that get you upset? And start really identifying that so that you can accurately express that when it's time to do that. So that's the biggest thing. First and foremost, is just making sure that you learn how to become intimate with yourself. And that doesn't always mean self pleasure. It can mean self pleasure, but it's just really understanding and knowing yourself and knowing how to communicate that to your partner. So that's the biggest piece of that. And then obviously there are other activities and homework in a sense that, you know, I want couples to try and be willing to do. We work on a lot of transparency. Really kind of like taking that mask off. You'd be surprised how many people live with each other day in and day out, and there's still a mask, there's still a wall up. And so we work on breaking down that wall, so to speak, and learning what it's like to be truly open so that your partner can really come in. So there's so many different strategies and so many approaches, but those are the main things that we focus on.
That's awesome. I hear that you're teaching people to communicate. I hear that you're teaching people to be vulnerable with each other, whether you've been together for eons, or whether this is a new relationship. And you also said something really key that, sometimes we're set in our ways. I am who I am, you are who you are, and then we're coming together. And then sometimes you find couples are trying to figure out how they're going to make it work. So
Yeah.
I absolutely can see that. And I see how you add value as well. Now the pandemic has been challenging. I mean, people have dealt with loss and financial ruts, disconnections, and many couples have even called it quits, in the mainstream media and privately in their households. What tips do you have for couples to spice up their love life and focus on reconnecting in a major way?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, again, it goes back to that transparency and honesty. The first thing that couples have to realize, when clearly we were in a situation that we didn't know, no one knew that this was coming. So this was a shock to everyone. And it was really a shock to those who were already dealing with things in their marriages and not in relationships and not being open about it. And so the pandemic kind of blew the lid off of that, so to speak, because it was already there. It was lying dormant. So first of all, it's just making sure that there's some honest conversations about, okay, we may not necessarily be where we want to be. And now we're in a position where we really have to kind of be together, work together. And for a lot of couples, they may not have had that time together like that since the beginning. Okay, if we're really honest. And even some couples may not have had it like that at the beginning, depending on their schedules and what was going on. So it's really forcing them to kind of, look at each other and ask the question, what do I want? What do I want to experience with you? What's something that we haven't had the chance to do because of time, because of our careers and our kids, and being very intentional. And so I would say, if you want to spice up your relationship, your marriage, you have to be intentional. Nothing just happens. I don't care how much chemistry you've had over the past, or the passion that you had at the beginning. You have to literally sit down and talk with each other about what you like, what you desire. This is a good time to kind of come up with questions for each other and ask each other. Like, you can make like little note cards, sheets of paper, and just think about like 5 questions that you have like a burning desire, to want to know, but you just never really approached it for whatever reason, because you were like, oh, okay, this is going to cause an argument, or I don't think they're going to be honest with me. Well, this is the time. And believe it or not, when you learn more about your partner, even after all of these years, you'll find that you actually kind of, start feeling a little some way like, oh, you kind of feeling new again. Like sometimes it's that newness that can be exciting too, So I would definitely suggest that. Also, I think it's really cool to like maybe even create a scavenger hunt around the house. You come up with little things that they can find, and whatever they find, that's what you're going to do. So if your partner has been really itching for like that new position that we have been talking about, put it on that little card, and hide it somewhere. So when they find it, it's like, yeah, that's what we doing tonight, And so I would definitely advise cooking together. Maybe cooking a meal together. If you're not the cook, maybe you could be the one that's reading off, the directions to how to cook the meal, or you could be the one setting the ambiance, the music, the candles, the incense, but just do it together. If you're into, lingerie and things like that, fine, you can do that as well. It's so many options. And sometimes it's just sitting and watching a movie together. I know my husband and I really enjoyed that during the time that we were sheltering in place. We were just like, okay, once these kids are in the bed, we're watching movies we haven't watched in a long time. I'm talking like Boys in the Hood, Jason's Lyric, like we just was pulling them out the bag. And so, but that was so fun because it brought us back to a time, in our younger years. So it's so many different things that you can do, but those are just a few that I can think of off the top of my head.
Those are some really, really good tips, especially indoors. It doesn't have to be boring, and it doesn't have to be a separate thing. I like to think that I heard a quote a long time. I've only been married 3.5 years, but I heard a quote that says, marriage is waking up every day and choosing each other over and over again. And that stuck with me. I saw this many years ago, and that quote has always stuck with me. And I'm hearing what you're saying about being intentional. So intentionally choosing that person when you get up every single day, and having those intentions with that person. So I love that. I love the vulnerability, and I heard the willingness to try. Like, it can't just be one person trying it and the other person's like, okay, if that's what you want to do, even with you watching the movies, like, all right, so watch Boys in the Hood. motherhood for the 47th time, I guess, but coming together and wanting to do
Right.
it. And I think that's really special. So how do you and your husband continually reaffirm your love through every season? I know you've been 16 years is a long time to be married to one person. I know you all are watching movies together. I know you all spend a lot of quality time together. You both have interest in and outside of the arts. You both are creatives. Shout out to DJ RL, Reggie Lee over there. So I mean, you are creatives. At one point in your life, you've done makeup, you've been an entrepreneur, you've done so much in the past. So what do you both do to keep that fire and reaffirm your love for each other?
Well, I would definitely say we are very intentional. When I got this advice, maybe like around, it was about 10 years ago. So yeah, I would say about 10 years ago. So we were married for like roughly 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And I remember someone saying about, scheduling this, scheduling that. And I was just like, it just takes the spontaneity out, like the sexy out of it, And it's funny because the older I get and, having the obligations and the different things that we're responsible for, setting a schedule is not too bad. It's like, because it's like I get this reminder on my phone sometimes. It's like, oh, we doing this tonight, what I mean? And it immediately like sparks something, I know for myself. One thing I do, and like I said, again, everyone is different. But I think an occasional revealing or sexy photo sent via text, is always a good thing. So I always like to add a little something like that. I don't do it all the time because I don't want to get like bored, what I mean? But like, nothing wrong with throwing that out there every once in a while. Like you'll get something maybe in a meeting or something, like open up your text. Oh, bam. All right. Okay. So that's what we're doing today. Yes. Okay. So that's
I'm going on
that's on your mind, right? And then also, we really enjoy, like, we love comedy shows. And I know with COVID and everything and, not being able to go as many places as before. But what we've done is just transfer that to home. So if we can't get to a comedy club, then we'll watch like a comedy special, on Netflix or, whatever is playing on. I would definitely say too, one thing that my husband actually says that he needs a lot of from me, the help, is because I'm more of the talker, the expressive one like that, So a lot of times I'm like, babe, talk to me. Like, I just want you to talk to me. And he like, cool, what you want to talk about? And I'm like, I want you to come up with something. You know what I mean? He's like, but Angie, I need your help. If you could just set the tone or give me like a subject or something, guide me to it. And that actually used to like bother me because I'm like, why can't you just come up and start talking like I do, but we're two different people, and so that's something too that I had to remember, that this is my personality. This is what comes naturally to me. There are things that come naturally to him. So we have those conversations like, hey, you know what? I got you. I can help you on the conversation tip. Okay. But I need your help with XYZ. So it's always this like, we got to both, be intentional about these things. So definitely we put things in a schedule. We share calendars, on our phones. So if we're doing something, we lock it in. So, cause we have a 15-year-old and she synced to our phone as well with the calendars, and see, she'll be trying to hog up all the time. And I want you to take me here. No, we're not doing that. Me and daddy got a date, you know what I'm saying? So, so we're really, really intentional, about that, which makes it fun because it says to us that we're prioritizing each other. So that in itself feels alive and sexy because it's important. I would definitely say, believe it or not, you should take inventory of your relationship just like you would at a job. Like when you have a review, whether it's every 6 months or every year, what's been working, you know what I'm saying? And what hasn't been, because believe it or not, if you've been with someone for a long time, you're going to evolve. You're going to come up with new ideas. You're going to change here. I tell people all the time, my husband has married a billion people within me alone because I'm always evolving, so, but that keeps it spicy, you know what I'm saying?
Relationship every 5 years.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it keeps it on point, it's never boring, in that sense. So I think that's really something too that, adds that element, of spice. And I would say the last thing is us always working on ourselves. Definitely keeps the spice going. We're always interested in learning something new, especially when my husband first got into DJing because he's a teacher full time. It's just so nice to see him evolve, in that career in itself. And it's very successful in it and has a following, and he's so excited about what he does. And he just gets crazy good reviews, just for his work as a DJ. So it's nice to watch because that he has found something that feels like his niche, And so even with myself, we've known each other, even besides being married, we've known each other since we were teenagers. So we've literally watched each other grow. And I think that's the part that's been really cool, exciting, and it's spicy in its own way. Like I said, the longer you're with someone, you have to really make a conscious effort to find the things that's like, no, you know what, that is cool that you did that. I'm digging that, you want to better yourself or you want to try something new. So I would definitely say that to couples too. What we've done is just try something new, and I have a book by the name of that too, but that's a whole other.
Back for that, right? Well, you've touched on this tonight, and I think all of this has been excellent. But how can you right now encourage couples who are watching, who are a little resistant to embracing change in their lives, in order to draw closer to each other?
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I would definitely say, embracing change is always, I think, a challenge really for anyone. Some people are on the further end of the spectrum with change. They're like, no, just give it to me now and let me figure it out, and some people are like totally resistant to it. But one thing that's constant is change. So you literally have to get that in your brain that at some point in time in your relationship, your marriage, there are some things that are going to evolve. And so that's kind of that come to Jesus moment that I think we all have to have at some point. Now, after you had that moment, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be very easy, but at least you've taken the first step to accept that there needs to be some changes, that need to happen. Because currently, if you're not experiencing what you want, in your relationship, in your marriage fully, there's a reason for that. And if you want it to stay that way, then I say, yeah, do nothing, don't change, But if you really want to see some things shift, be open. You don't have to do everything at once, but take baby steps. Take baby steps and just acknowledging that something else is kind of missing. And I think I want, a little bit more. A lot of people are even afraid to admit that because they feel like they don't deserve it. But if you're going to be with someone, and you say that this is what we're doing, you deserve intimacy. That's just a human need. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think it's just kind of getting out of our own way and knowing that, yes, you do deserve to be loved a certain way.
Oh, I love that so much. Now, you've written 2 novels, Discovering Lita and Something New. Question for you, authoress. Do the characters in your books have to embrace change in any of the relationships they have to overcome?
Wholeheartedly. Okay, that's like the basis of both books. The protagonist, the main characters in the book, that's the challenge. It's just with the first book, Discovering Lita, not to give too much away if people haven't read it, but that main character, she's married, she has beautiful kids, a successful career, her husband is successful. I mean, like on paper, they got it down. You would think like, what's the problem? But as you peel back the layers, you see that there's some dissatisfaction there, and it's causing the main character to try to figure out, how can I change this situation because I'm not happy. But it takes some serious work. And she goes through a lot of things before she gets to the realization of what she needs to do to be happy. So hence the title, Discovering Lita. She does a lot of discovering of herself in that novel. And Something New just branches off into something totally different. I would say outside of my own personal element, but knowing people and working with people, I really tackled a subject matter that it's still pretty taboo, but not as taboo. But it's about what they call a polyamorous relationship. So there were 3 people involved in this relationship, and it definitely changed the viewpoint of the main character. Again, title is Something New. So that was something outside of her comfort zone. So she was definitely doing a lot of changing in that book. And she was resistant to some change too. So yes, my characters for sure definitely have to deal with like change and adjustments and pivots and all of that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for just sharing your gift with the world. You've touched on this a bit already, but just as some parting words for us today, just an encouraging word to any couple watching. You know, COVID is still here. Schedules are busy, responsibilities are heavy, there are children involved. They
Mhm.
don't think they have time to connect. Just
Yeah.
take us home with one last encouraging word just to get us home and get us closer to each other again.
Yeah, well, I would definitely say sometimes, in relationships, things can look really bleak, and I understand that because I've been there. And there are times when you just really don't understand what step to take, and sometimes you don't even believe that anything you can do will make it work. But the first thing is to just remember to be still, take a breath, a breather, and really hear yourself breathe, and know that that means that there's still life in you, there's still time, there's still an opportunity to change your situation. And if you truly want it, just know that one step at a time, it is so possible, but you have to believe that it is. You have to start there first. And sometimes partners, because we may not always be on the same page, but then if that's the case, then become intimate with yourself. Love yourself, understand yourself, know what you need, and make a priority to give yourself that. Either they're going to come and follow suit, and sometimes situations change and they're a little different, but know that if you're taking care of yourself first, you'll always be okay, because that's the best relationship you can actually really have is with yourself.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm.
Angie D. Lee, thank you so much for being
Thanks for
my
having me.
friend and my special guest on the Chundria Show. If anyone is interested in acquiring your services as an intimacy coach, checking out those amazing books of yours, or just following your journey online, what is the best way to connect with you?
Definitely. So if you would like to inquire about my services, I am available at Angie at angiedlee.com. And you will get a response within like a 24-hour period. So I just want you to know that. So definitely shoot me an email, even if you just have general questions, if you want to just do a consultation, definitely send me an email. You can follow me on social media on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at N2MEC Coach. So that's IN, the number 2, MESEECOACH, and that's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And you can also catch videos where I kind of dive a little bit deeper into like relationships and discovering intimacy on YouTube at Angie D. Lee.
Fantastic. Angie D. Lee, thank you so much again.